Have you ever been ghosted, dumped, or excluded and felt it like a punch to the gut? You're not alone. Rejection hurts, and your brain processes it almost exactly like physical pain. Today, we'll explore the science behind that heartbreak and why it stings so badly. What happens in your brain when you feel rejected? To understand how rejection affects us, scientists conducted an experiment led by Dr. Matthew Hertenstein at DePaul University. Participants played a virtual ball tossing game called Cyberball with two others. At first, they were included, but later the other players excluded them. Using functional magnetic resonance imaging, researchers saw which parts of the brain lit up during this exclusion. They found that participants experienced an increase in activity in the same brain regions that become active when people experience physical pain. The key areas were the anterior cingulate cortex, the prefrontal cortex, and the cerebellum. The anterior cingulate cortex processes both emotional and physical pain. The prefrontal cortex regulates emotions, and the cerebellum contributes to emotional processing. So these findings suggest that social exclusion activates the same brain mechanisms as physical pain. But wait, there's more. Another study, diving into this topic, used positron emission, tomography, to measure blood flow in the brain, while participants were excluded from a similar ball tossing game. The results showed increased activity in the anterior cingulate cortex and the insula. The insula is involved in the emotional, not the sensory component of pain. These studies show that the brain responds to social exclusion in much the same way it responds to a painful stimulus. Why does the brain respond this way? Why does rejection hurt so much? It all comes down to evolution. Back in our early history, being rejected by your group meant you didn't have anyone to rely on for protection, food, or companionship. In other words, it was life or death. So our brains evolved to treat social rejection as a serious threat. Feeling pain helped signal that something was wrong and needed attention immediately. Dr. Daniel Gilbert, professor of psychology and neuroscience at the University of California, San Diego, says that this kind of pain wasn't unique to humans. Other animals living in groups also evolved to feel distress when excluded. This means that experiencing pain when rejected isn't just a human thing. It's part of many animal survival instincts. Basically, if you were kicked out of the tribe back in the day, you probably didn't survive long enough to pass on your genes. So feeling pain when rejected might be a way to ensure you never end up like your ancestors who did you and make it. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Neuroscientist Dr. Helen Fisher and anthropologist Dr. Lucy Brown from Rutgers University believe that the feelings of heartbreak are actually an extension of parental grief. Humans aren't the only animals that grieve. Some animals will mourn their dead babies for weeks, even though they knew the offspring wouldn't live much longer anyway. It makes sense for animals to grieve the loss of their offspring, because they probably won't have any more. But humans take it a step further. When a parent loses a child, the same regions of the brain associated with physical pain light up, the prefrontal cortex and the anterior cingulate cortex. These parents don't just feel pain, they experience the exact same kind of pain you might feel after getting burned. Social pain, even the loss of a pet, can trigger a similar response in some people. This suggests that our brain's response to social rejection is an extension of our innate ability to grieve and protect those we care about. Rejection and the brain's chemistry. So far, we've explored the areas of the brain involved in rejection. Now let's look at the chemistry of rejection. You see, the brain doesn't just send signals when you're rejected, it also releases chemicals. A lot of these chemicals are related to pleasure, reward, and mood, which might explain why you feel awful when you're rejected. After all, who wants to feel less pleasure, less reward, and worse overall mood? Well, nobody. But what specifically happens to your chemistry when you're rejected? A study published in the journal Neuron sheds some light on that. Researchers found that social exclusion decreases levels of two important neurotransmitters, dopamine and serotonin. Dopamine is responsible for motivation, focus, and pleasure. Serotonin plays a role in mood stabilization, sleep, and digestion. So when you're rejected, your brain's chemistry changes in ways that affect your motivation, mood, and even sleep. This might be why people who go through a lot of rejection, like frequent job applicants or those dating in a big city, sometimes feel overwhelmed and burnt out. It's like your brain is constantly in a state of mild depression. Due to the constant rejection, Luckily, there are ways to boost these neurotransmitters, which we'll talk about soon. Is there anything we can do about it? Since social rejection affects our brain in ways similar to physical pain, can we treat it with the same methods we use to cope with physical pain? Surprisingly, the answer seems to be yes. Acetaminophen, the active ingredient in many painkillers such as Tylenol, has been shown to reduce the pain of social rejection. A study published in Psychological Science asked participants to take either a dose of acetaminophen or a placebo. Then they played a game where they were repeatedly rejected. Those who took acetaminophen reported less physical pain than the placebo group. They also reported feeling less negative emotion and wanting to interact less with the other players. While it may seem odd to think that a painkiller can help with social rejection, it makes sense when you consider that both involve the same brain regions. This might be why some people turn to drugs or alcohol when they're rejected. They're trying to alter their brain chemistry and reduce the pain. So, how can you cope with rejection? How do you overcome the brain's response to rejection? Here are 4 things you can do to help yourself heal. 1. Acknowledge the pain. Ignoring it won't make it go away. You have to accept that you're hurting before you can start to feel better. 2. Don't isolate yourself. Reach out to friends or family members. Engaging with others can help you process your emotions and distract you from your worries. 3. Practice self-affirmation. Write down all the things you like about yourself, or repeat positive affirmations. This can help you see yourself in a more positive light and boost your mood. 4. Give it time. Healing takes time. Don't expect to feel better right away. Allow yourself time to grieve and heal. When you think of rejection, what comes to mind? Are you reminded of a personal experience? Or maybe you're thinking of someone else's experience. Whatever your thoughts may be, know that you're not alone. Rejection is part of the human experience. We've all been rejected at some point in our lives. And while it may be painful, it's important to remember that it doesn't define you. The next time someone rejects you, take a deep breath, remind yourself that it is not the end of the world, and reach out to a friend or loved one for support. You'll get through it. The science behind rejection suggests that it's a natural response to being excluded or abandoned. Our brain has evolved to experience pain when we're rejected because it's an important survival mechanism. It helps us prioritize our relationships and seek support from others, which increases our chances of survival. When we're rejected, our brain chemistry changes, triggering a mix of emotions and sensations that are similar to physical pain. Fortunately, we have the ability to cope with rejection by practicing self-care, seeking support, and reframing our thoughts. Rejection is a universal experience that can affect anyone. It's essential to approach it with understanding and compassion towards ourselves and others. By recognizing the signs and symptoms of rejection and taking steps to care for ourselves, we can navigate this difficult situation in a healthy and productive manner. In today's fast-paced world, it can be easy to fall into the trap of comparing ourselves to others and feeling inadequate. But it's important to remember that everyone faces rejection and failure at some point in their lives. Instead of letting it define us, we can choose to learn from the experience and move forward with resilience. So the next time you face rejection, take a moment to acknowledge your feelings, practice self-compassion, and focus on your personal growth and development. Remember that you're not alone, and that rejection doesn't have to be the end of your story. We hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please don't forget to leave us a like and subscribe for more content. We would love to have you back for the next one. Until then, take care, and thanks for watching.